I was just getting ready to start the...
I thought you said you wanted me to see the GIF.
Oh, no.
Okay, I misunderstood what you said.
Yeah.
So you don't want the watermelon now?
No, after I shoot this little bit.
Okay.
Craig Zerfoss, watching the Rex Reed on episode of Dick Cavett show from 1970 makes me want to know where I can get an Argyle suit. That's our great friend Craig. The local contributor of many hours of film and video of rock stars right and left who have enlivened our lives here in Scarborough and Chapel Hill, and then on out into the world as the main export of the area. I want to make shipping container conversions to create a surplus, and that reminds me I have some drawings to do. And I found the measurements I was looking for. Measurements. Here's a picture of Alice Powell. How about that? I should indicate I saw that. Alice Powell being playing with a child, young child, Chip's kids, wearing masks. They make those great wrestling masks. Everybody should have one. An important part of your costuming and clothing equipment is a good mask, and I need to know where my motorcycle mask is because it kept my face warm. You should have seen me the time I was walking across Rochester in the snow wearing my surplus coat and my motorcycle helmet and moon boots as I was trying to get from one side of town to the next. I might not have had my moon boots anymore, but I might have. Bill Moyers, Aiken. Governor George Aiken spoke up on behalf. Oh, you know, I was reading a book I have by Lynn Dighton. Sweat, Blood, and Tears, or and it described the free trader economy of England in the 1850s, and it sounded just as destructive to their society as it is now. That was the original, not neoliberalism, but what they call liberalism, I guess, in the original. It didn't work then, it doesn't work now, apparently. John Randall. Now it's got a guy playing a thing. And here, Guy Kawasaki. When Mexicans crossed our border to feed Americans in need. For 3 weeks after Katrina, Mexican soldiers helped thousands of displaced Americans in Texas. And here we go, Salon. Libertarianism is a philosophy comprised of infantile naivete. Liberalism is for petulant children. And Rand Paul and the movement's sad rebellion. Libertarians fancy themselves radicals, and yet their rallying cry can be reduced to, "You're not the boss of me." These are things that are, you know, this is the simplest of the Intendor radio show, and it is a reflection of trends as seen in the feed that I get on Facebook. And this next thing is from the U.S. Department of State. The United States is deeply disappointed disappointed and concerned by the verdict handed down by an Egyptian court to the three Al Jazeera journalists Mohammed Fambe Bara Mohammed and Peter Grist. Huh. Well, I want to know. I mean, it's sad, and it's deeply sad. I have begun to think of the political prisoners in jail all over the world, and in particular the political prisoners that they really are, that are in jail in the United States for either distributing or growing pot, you know. It's 23 states, what are they, bootleggers if they're not doing it the way you're supposed to, and the states that have it for medical marijuana, which is kind of a, it's really disgusting that it's not legal for medical uses in the United States because it does prevent spasms, and I should know about that because I take pills for spasms, and if the drugstores closed, I wouldn't have any opportunity to use anything else that might keep me from not being a spastic. What they call, when I was a kid, they called them spastics. And you know, notwithstanding that there's so much that North Carolina's legislature pled, their religious bloc has such a voice, a theocracy of the state, you know, theocratic institutions have such powerful voice, and that they can even go in there and before the legislature say we're ignorant, just basically say we're ignorant and get away with it is the height of poking the eye of the citizens who know better. Anybody that's an old man, you know, like in their 60s, like old men, like twice your parents' age and at least 20 years older than most of your cops, if not 40 or 50, no, you know. And if your representatives won't, if your police won't join, you know, police to end prohibition, if your police departments won't do that, if they won't join that organization, you need another police department. Let's see, where was I? Anyway, that last thing, the State Department thing got me thinking about the, what I was talking about earlier when I was riding back from Greensboro with my brother about how the Saudis haven't knocked them around because here for carry lower the price of oil impacts ISIS, take ISIS money away from them. We're all for that, right? And then the other thing was, well, they got it made is going to destroy the low prices. It's also going to destroy whatever petro industry was limping along after they lowered the price, or fracking, you know, searching out every drop. 3,900 wells takes to get 390 wells worth of oil in Saudi Arabia. 3,000 is 10 times. What is that? 10 times at least? There's 100 times. 100 times more. 300 times more. Nearly 400 times. 300 times more. 300% more drills to get what? 390 against 3,900. No wonder to keep the petrodollar going. You know, they're going to drill in the Arctic, Antarctic, anywhere they can. Keep that petrodollar a viable currency and a reserve currency. And so the Saudis got it either way. You know, they're going to destroy the American business, destroy ISIS business, and they've had the United States fighting for their oil interest for years. Now they're bombing the hell out of Yemen as a practice. Same way the Russians are doing hybrid war as a practice against NATO. And your tanks are, I mean, if you don't understand military enough to know that victory looks like tanks, airplanes are about guarding tanks and the infantry that follows Yeah. Right now the Saudi family must be laughing. They're doing great. Lots of power. Anyway, love you. Don't ever change.